What's up, Ryan? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Joe?
Great. Yeah, we're just actually hanging out in a, I don't know, like an empty restaurant or something here at
Yeah, it's an
Databricks.
empty restaurant. It's pretty swank.
It is very swank, just like your shirt. So we're doing an audio podcast, but Ryan's got the infamous duck T-shirt on right now. So
Yeah, Tipsy Elves duck shirts. You should look it up on Amazon. They're pretty awesome.
Tipsy Elves, is that the brand?
Yeah, that's the brand.
That's cool. And speaking of ducks, so you are with Motherduck, aptly named company. So I guess, to kick it off, like for people who don't know who you are or what Motherduck is, do you want to give a quick intro on both of those?
Sure. Let me start with me, and then I'll move into Motherduck. Again, Ryan Boyd. I recently, about a year ago, co-founded this company, Motherduck. But before that, my career was leading developer relations at Databricks, at Neo4j, at Google Cloud, and then before that, IC developer of e-commerce systems and things like that. But so I, kind of been in the developer space for a long time. Data side, also around kind of authentication, authorization. Wrote an O'Reilly book on OAuth, which is probably the world's shortest O'Reilly book.
Wait, how short is it?
I think like 80 or 90 pages.
It's a pamphlet.
But it's a pamphlet. Sure, I get it. It still buys me a lunch once a month, so
Nice.
I'm happy.
We can go to Casa Bonita pretty soon in Denver and get yourself a lunch there. So.
Maybe give me a couple lunches there. I don't know. But yeah, so I've been in the data space, authentication, authorization space, enterprise, cloud, blah blah blah. So basically we created this company called Motherduck. Basically, a little over a year now.
Congrats.
We all gathered in Seattle about a year ago, and I think June 20th was the 1-year anniversary of us gathering as co-founders in Seattle. And really the idea is bring DuckDB to the cloud, make DuckDB, take advantage of the cloud features around collaboration and scalability and all, which is really kind of fun to take an embedded database and bring it to the cloud. Mm-hmm. But a large part of our reason behind this is really just making life easier for the average practitioner, the average data analyst.
Yeah.
Getting data in is still a pain in the major tools. I spent a couple years at Databricks trying to get the team to make that easier, and little progress here and there, but it's hard. And so yeah, we created this company, Motherduck, bringing DuckDB to the cloud.
It's pretty cool. I mean, seeing a lot of press around DuckDB right now, I think as a standalone thing too. It seems to have captured the attention of a lot of people. We can probably get into reasons why. I'm very curious about your take on that. Why it's getting a lot of attention and attraction. But then, I think, what was it, last year around this time, Jordan Tigani was on one of my podcasts talking about Motherduck. I think it might have been the second public discussion he had on it, because I think Sanjeev, he was on Sanjeev's podcast a couple weeks before that. But the moment he started talking about it, and again, it was a very nebulous conversation in some ways, because I don't think that you guys were exactly clear like what it was. But I think Matt and I, after we were done with the conversation, we're just like, yeah, there's something here for sure. Yeah. I think after the call, we're just like, yo, can we put some money into this if you guys? He's like, nah, we're good. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew we wanted to do something with DuckDB. At that time, we were still sort of exploring what the boundaries were going to be of what we're going to build, and I'm sure it's still going to evolve over time. You were talking about why has DuckDB become so popular? Why is it, Sanjeev tells me it's one of his most popular interviews that he's done as well with Jordan.
That's crazy.
Why is this? Why is the community rallied behind this tool? And I think it's kind of, our industry really does move in cycles. And, the thing to do for the last 10 years is these, or 20 years is these large scale distributed systems.
Yep.
I met Jordan, the CEO of Motherduck, when I worked with him at Google BigQuery, and we were talking about how you run these queries across 1,000 machines. And so the industry moves in these cycles, and our reaction to that is to say, okay, what has changed through history? And one of the things that's changed is the power of local compute. And DuckDB has really taken advantage of that and said, like, hey, not only should you have high performance analytics on your local machine, you should be able to do things with SQL on your local machine without socket connections in an embedded library inside your code. And we're going to create a great developer experience around it. And we're also going to keep innovating really quickly. Like, I think that academic papers get presented about databases, and within weeks, there's often a new feature in DuckDB implementing those what's in those academic papers that are presented, and so they're just this really fast pace of innovation combined with a great developer experience and a focus on performance in a lightweight engine.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like, who was it? Martin Kleppman. He's the author of Designing Data-Intensive Applications, which is sort of the distributed systems Bible. And I know that he's been working a lot, as a researcher on local first computing now. And it's an interesting trend because you see it coming from a lot of other angles. It's his approach is, I think, similar in philosophy to what you guys had, are developing right now. But it's, as you say, it's pendulums, right? I mean, I go on to Reddit data engineering subreddit because I have a masochistic tendency. But on that one, it's interesting because people are now complaining about the various credit consumption or overconsumption, from certain cloud data providers. And again, I can't get into I don't know what the use cases are, like how people are spending credits, but it's a huge source of complaint. Like, these giant systems in the cloud, they're nice, but if you don't use them right, you're going to be paying a lot of money, And I think that there's a trend, especially right now in a kind of a cost conscious environment. We're going back to I think people are looking back at local as maybe something to try out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things here is that, yes, people always want the knobs and dials that give them control, especially around expenses, right? So, like, when I worked on Google BigQuery, the first thing that people would ask is, how do I make sure that I don't, run my query on too many machines, right?
Yeah.
And performance is great, but if it comes at a huge expense, it's a classic sort of ROI calculation there. How much you need. I mean, as geeks, right? Like, I love to see the queries run on 1,000, 1,200 different machines on BigQuery, and I loved seeing the results. But I wasn't the one paying the bill when I worked at Google, and seeing those fast results. When you are paying the bill, like, we find actually a lot of people across the major cloud data warehouses and data analytics systems buy the smallest size instances. Yeah. So they're like, we have to control the cost, so we'll do that by buying the smallest size instances. And it's like, what the heck is the point of doing it in the cloud if you're always going to have the smallest size instances and have all of your users competing for that same resource? And I call it kind of the cloud data warehouse is the modern day mainframe. It's this shared resource that people are waiting in line with the operator and their punch cards and their data cards, and they're like, here, please run my query. And it's silly when we're sitting here with these M1, M2 laptops that have, I think my M1 has like 24 megs of L1 cache. Like,
that's beefy.
Yeah, no, I mean, the machines are beefy, and why are we sitting there and waiting for the cloud when that's happening? So, one thing we're really working on at Motherduck is hybrid querying. Like, how do you decide whether to bring the compute to the data or the data to the compute, and how do you decide like which parts of the query should be executed where? And we're not thinking of it from a what are the 1,000 machines in the cloud that we can execute these queries on. We're saying, hey, you should be able to write SQL that accesses your local file system and crunches stuff on your local system, and also joins that together with things that on the cloud systems, and does it automatically for you. It has a cost-based planner, tries to figure out what are the best ways to do that. So we're doing a lot of research in that area, because we do want the average analyst to have a much better experience and not really just kind of rely on what the sysadmins or the data engineers are tuning their knobs to, with the CFO looking over their shoulders.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, Jordan gave me a demo of Motherduck last week, and they distributed kind of a hybrid cloud and WASM queries. I was blown away at the fact that it could just automatically determine what workloads to split out. I think that was really, really cool. As I joke with Matt Housley, my co-author and business partner, but I feel like the laptops are the new on-prem in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a Mac Studio last week, and that thing is
jealous,
freaking
man.
Beast. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had a Mac Mini for a long time, and an Intel one, and that thing was great, actually. But I was like, well, Mac Studio's greater, so I will get that.
But it's probably sitting 85% idle, just like this laptop, unless you're on a Zoom call. Like the machine's not doing anything.
It's not doing much, no. And then the crazy thing is, it's. I mean, I'm recording this on a M1 2020, laptop. I think the first MacBook Pro, and the thing still kicks ass. Like I'll probably just get a new battery for it when it dies. It's a great laptop. There's nothing wrong with it.
I mean, the thing that I say a lot is, like, from a technology perspective, hardware has advanced a lot over the last 10 years. So I worked on BigQuery, I don't know, in 2012, 2013. The maximum size of a EC2 machine at the time was 60.5 gigs of RAM. Now it is 4 terabytes. That's insane. A 400x change. Similar, like the maximum amount of memory, I think was 8 gigs at the time on a MacBook Pro. And now it's 96 gigs. So 12x change. Not quite as big as in the cloud, but like there's been this huge change in compute resources that are available both in the cloud and to us locally. But we're still using the same software and the same distributed paradigms that we used way back then. Like, data has grown, but the data that you actually care about hasn't grown that much.
That's an interesting insight. Just think especially for data engineers, right? The discussion is still, and we're at Databricks Summit, so Spark's awesome, killer, but the discussion is still around Spark, right? At least here, different workloads. I mean, it still sits at sort of the epicenter of a lot of things, but like, what do you think is coming next? As we kind of move maybe to a post-distributed systems world.
I don't know. I mean, I do expect the pendulum swings will happen here, right? I can't be naive to that, but I think efficiency is really what's important. Developers, user experience, whatever you want to call it, is what's really important, because we really. I think we're past the age of just doing distributed compute because it's fun and it's interesting. Like, we have to find the real utility in it for it to make sense. And I'm sure there's workloads that it makes sense for. I'm sure for many Silicon Valley companies with their petabytes and exabytes of data, sure, you need distributed compute. But nowadays, with the growth of memory, the growth of CPU performance, all of that, what if you can design systems without spending hundreds of engineering hours dealing with consensus algorithms, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if you could take those engineering hours that you've spent on consensus algorithms and instead put them into the, experience? And for those of you who have used Databricks or Snowflake or any of these tools, just improving the experience of loading data into the systems would make things so much easier for a lot of users.
That's a big piece of it too. And then I think the other elephant in the room is just egress. That's something Matt and I hit on quite a bit because everyone wants to do data sharing, any number of things, right? And it's like, except you get to pay the toll along the way.
I don't actually know if you saw this, but this morning Databricks did a keynote on Delta. Michael Armbrust talked about Delta sharing, and I guess they did a deal with Cloudflare to make Delta sharing free of egress costs on Cloudflare. And But it's an important point because like the reason they did that obviously is because it's really irritating people to see how much it costs to have.
It's
have
like
their egress.
did you have a cell phone back in the 90s or the 2000s? Did you have to pay like cell phone minutes?
Cell phone minutes, cell phone like out of area code fees, long distance fees.
That's what this feels like, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, even if in AWS going region to region egress is like you can get bit pretty hard, and between AZ, I mean, there's a bunch of nuance to it. If you don't know what you're doing right now, it's almost like being a distributed systems engineer, but being like an egress fee engineer or something like that. But
I mean, everyone looking at the cloud fees, like, you look at what is the percent margin that you think that they're making off of different parts of the cloud fees. And I feel like egress fees, like they're making a killer margin on that. So maybe things will go cyclical there too, where egress fees will eventually be brought down because the community demands it. But it's certainly been something that we've looked at with this sort of hybrid execution model of like, okay, like if you're doing some stuff locally, some stuff in the cloud, what is the cost of transferring data back and forth to the cloud? And like, how do you actually even have that as part of the query planner, right? Like the query plan should kind of understand that there's a cost involved here. But hopefully that'll just become a non-issue over time as folks like Cloudflare disrupt the industry there. I think even like they have R2 or something. Their storage mechanism also charges based off of total amount stored versus amount stored and bits transferred. And so, hopefully with some of these newcomers to the market, we'll see some changes there.
That's interesting. So it kind of brings me back to a question with a company like Motherduck, for example, right? Where there's there's probably a serverless cloud aspect to it, and then I can run queries on a machine. Like, blunt question: how do you want to make money?
We're still early. We launched last week. Everyone can sign up for request an invite. But I think that there's plenty of opportunity here to make money, both around improving the experience. People are willing to pay for a much smoother experience for their users to make their users happy. But then there's also just like we think we can be less expensive than the traditional players in this market right now. Because of the ability to balance both those local and remote computing resources. So, we think, it's, like I said, it's a margins game, right? And, the ability to execute parts of the query, even if it's just determining the query plan locally, like that actually has a big effect on the overall resources needed on the compute side. So, think of that. You think also of the scale up versus scaling out. I think we can reduce costs. It used to be, to get these big honking machines was expensive. But if you look in the cloud now, the prices are the same because every time you get a small VM in the cloud, that's actually running on a big machine. It's just a slice of a big machine. So why do you have those slices of that big machine spending a lot of energy communicating with each other to determine, who should take the right request? It just doesn't make sense. So that I think there's some cost reduction that can be done there, and really, like I said, on the experience side, I think there's just so much room to grow that people would be willing to pay for that.
I think so too. It's one of these things where I think if you can provide that layer where it is good user experience in a way that's familiar, right? Like it needs to feel like it's a like a quote data warehouse from the beginning. Like I think that's where Snowflake did it right when they launched, is that they knew how to talk to the enterprise about data warehouse. They knew what a data warehouse user wanted. And again, sorry Snowflake, I'm calling it a data warehouse. You're a data cloud platform. I love you. But the user experience is definitely a big thing. Where I think out of the gate it was just really easy, right? Compared to other products at the time like Redshift, I think they're trying to do a lot of takeouts there. BigQuery's interface, I think, was always pretty easy to use. I think Jordan called it Easy Query or something like that. But that's really what people want. And I think just being transparent about costs is like a big thing. Like again, like as I was on this, looking at this thread on Reddit today, and it was like somebody's, questioning, like, why am I spending an order of magnitude more money versus my old SQL server? Like, we're very tempted to go back to SQL Server because the costs are so untenable. I think they're using Snowflake, but and part of it I think is as a user education thing maybe, but if it seems like they tried every way of optimizing and there's no way out of it, and so I don't know. For them, it is what it is, I guess, but it's got to be frustrating because you signed up for this commit most likely, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the world that we live in with cloud software providers.
Yeah.
Is the costs will keep going up, but you hope to get something for that, and that's what we're aiming to give you is give you a much better experience, but like you said, it's in ways that you're comfortable with, or adapting you to ways that you're comfortable with, versus just kind of sudden switch. It's really interesting to see all this movement around. We've had the LLMs and the
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. We
that.
have to do the obligatory LLM chat.
Yeah, I mean we have to, right? That's what It's really interesting talking to people around here at the Data and AI conference, because people at the Data and AI conference, you have a lot of people really looking at how they can stretch the limits, and even within traditional enterprises. So I talked to someone at a multinational bank and someone at an oil company, and they're trying to figure out what is their LLM play, it's super awesome that this stuff has happened so quickly for us. I mean, it was basically, the research has been going on for 50, 60, 80 years, whatever. But the idea that it came to fruition so quickly, and already a bunch of enterprises that are more traditional are looking at it, is great. And again, it comes back to usability. And I think, the Databricks announced the ability to query your data lake with English as the SDK. I think with Python they called it the Apache Spark English SDK, which is a pretty awesome name for it, unless you speak another spoken language. But you're trying to figure out the acronym here. And we're doing the same thing. We're saying, okay, how can AI improve the experience on Motherduck? Tonight we're going to demo natural language to SQL with
I saw that.
Databricks.
Cool.
With Databricks, with Motherduck. Being at the Data and AI conference. I also worked there for a few years, so you always tend to refer to your former employer.
Well, Jordan showed me, because I think during the demo, I just made a kind of a smart-ass joke, like, oh, do you have any ChatGPT integrations? And he's like, actually, we do have prompts. And so he
it's
showed
obligatory,
me
right?
But it was pretty cool, actually, right? So you could write plain, language, but you could also have it refactor your SQL, which was actually pretty cool.
It's funny because one of our investors, I'll let her be nameless here, but one of our investors said to us, it's been a long time since I've written SQL, and so I went to go try out Motherduck, and I kept on basically alt-tabbing back and forth between ChatGPT and Motherduck to figure out what queries I wanted to write. Why couldn't you guys just put this in Motherduck?
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
That was one of those discussions, and it's we should, and it's a question of how good is this going to be. So our company has been. The folks that work at our company have been cynical in the past on this, because we've seen large companies, including teams, managed by people that are at Motherduck, spend hundreds of hours or many man years trying to research how to do better machine learning on data, and to try to do these query engines with more traditional machine learning, and it wasn't successful. So you get to be a little bit cynical over it, but with the change in LLMs, it's a pretty fast integration to do. We just upload for Motherduck AI. We're just uploading your schema over to the model, and we then put your English query, and it computes a pretty good job at trying to figure out the SQL. And so I don't know. There's is it perfect? No, we're not at the state of perfections. I'm sure there's still going to be hallucinations. Humans hallucinate too, though. So you might as well have the computers attempt to emulate humans that way.
Oh, that's funny. And it's interesting you bring up the experiences of your team too, because I mean it's a pretty stacked team that you have. When I look at the bench, I mean I don't think there's a weak spot anywhere on it. And it's one of the rare teams I think that is the experiences are really informed by just working at, Google, for example, right? And Databricks and so forth. And, and like Jordan, for example, and Tino, very accomplished at what they do. I think, you have some other people on there as well who are helping out.
Yeah, no, that's been like the truly lovely part of this experience. And I'll say that I was actually talking to over 30 companies, looking for my next gig. It was the first time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I left Databricks in December of 2021, just wanting to take a break. I did a number of sailing trips and took about 6 months off, and then kind of was looking for my next opportunity. And it was the first time I was public during my job search, and it was pretty amazing. So I ended up talking to about 30 different companies.
Oh wow.
Most just kind of casually, not for specific listed jobs or anything. But there was one startup who I'll keep their name out of this too. But this startup was really genius folks doing an interesting thing. I was excited about it. They were excited about me. But one of my biggest hesitations was that the entire founding team came from a single company, working on a single problem in a single team. And you see that a lot, and that's great in that they've already gelled as a team, but what is it like to join that team to start with? And then the other thing is, I do think that the diversity of experience is really important. So, our founding team includes people from Elastic, the person that did the cloud architecture for all of Elastic. We have the lead front-end engineer from Snowflake on their new UI joined us as one of our founders. We have folks from BigQuery. I was at Databricks. We have Single Store, all sorts of experience from different companies in data. And we gelled based off of a common idea of how do we improve the experience for users? How do we, basically, how do we solve all the past mistakes of our employers? And it's great because you have such diversity of thought. It's that's really what drove me to join it. In addition to having an awesome experience, having known Jordan from BigQuery, but the diversity of backgrounds of the team was really important. And you're right. Everyone, has amazing pedigrees. Our interns have ACM awards. So, well, we kind of joke with Peter Bonds and Aaron Elmore as our interns. They're both professors in databases who've been around the block many years.
Peter Bonds, he just became a fellow recently, right? Yeah. That's lightweight. The term intern is really funny when you describe these people.
It's awesome because it shows the level of humility that they let us call them that, and we put it on our website as our interns. We don't make them fetch us coffee. At Motherduck, we fetch the coffee for the interns. We like that young energy. That's amazing. But yeah, Peter's doing a lot of the research into the hybrid query execution and things like that. So we've managed to bring together sort of the titans of the data industry, and but they're all good, humble folk with lots of experience, all willing to. They've been leaders in their past orgs, but they're all willing to get their hands dirty and write code again.
Cool. So. It's really rare team dynamic too, because I could see this going the other way, where because you have such titans of the field, there might be some competing egos. The fact that that's a lot of that's quashed, is pretty cool.
Yeah, we don't have much in the problems of competing egos. There are certainly hard, well-informed opinions that are different amongst some of the people at times.
Right?
But yeah, it creates a good discussion and makes it more interesting and inclusive to form your decision with all the information. So. I'm sure it might be smoother in that way at some of these companies where you have uniform thought joining together. But, for us, I think it'll end up making us a much better company and better product.
Yeah, but you're doing something, I would say, a lot newer. It's just this, nobody's really, executed on this idea before. At least that I've seen, maybe they have, and I'm not aware of it, but it's a different way of thinking about the world.
I think it's been done to some degree if you think of like Firebase, for instance. Like it's been done sort of on the consumer side and the mobile side of like, how do we bring a mobile app together with the cloud? But it's never been done sort of in serious business analytics side of things. So it's good to bring the world experts together for that.
Maybe walk me through this though. So you're a VP of marketing, right, at Motherduck? What do you do there?
Technically VP of marketing and DevRel, but I actually removed the title, I think, from my LinkedIn and just called myself a co-founder because we're all dealing with different challenges every day.
You're getting Jordan's coffee one day, he's getting yours. So, but how do you think about marketing? Kind of turning the page on this, right? Because it's like we talk about the technical aspects, but I think marketing is always one of these elusive things. In fact, before you showed up, I was talking to another friend of mine who, he was a staff engineer at one of the a company that we all use the product a lot. It's an app. But founding engineer of a startup, but he's like, yeah, it's great. We can build a great product. We think it's the best product out there, amongst all the competitors. But he's like, he quickly realized that's only a fraction of the equation. Great product's table stakes, right? So walk me through marketing especially with a new idea in a space like this.
Well, all right. So. I generally refrain from referring to that title as VP of Marketing, so I'm glad that you kind of brought it up a little later in the conversation. Hopefully people actually listen to the first part and don't tune me out now. But, I've done developer relations has been my official title for many years. And I think in the pitch decks to VCs, we put my title as something like rebel marketer, because I've done marketing, but honestly, there's all this battle in developer relations. Is it marketing? Where does it belong in an organization? All of that jazz. And, I think it starts from there in that, I believe developer relations is marketing. It's marketing that no one in the audience should ever perceive as marketing. So from a business side, it has the same goals. It has the same goals of driving awareness, driving adoption of the product, pulling people through the funnel, all of that. That's my business hat. But as an engineer, I don't want to feel like I'm being marketed to. And so that's kind of what the angle that I've always taken on marketing is like, your audience shouldn't feel that it is marketing. I hate white papers. I hate the for dummy books and stuff like that. I apologize if any of you like those things, but and I really just dislike it because it just feels like marketing. And a technical audience doesn't want that. They want education. They want best practices. They want true community of great friends. And they don't want to feel like they're marketed to.
Right.
And so that's kind of the attitude that I would take, especially building any sort of technical product is, sure, you're going to have marketing people. That's their job. But, it's really just working together with the entire company, making sure you validate all your ideas with the engineering side of the company, the product side of the company. Make sure people who are in your target audience aren't going to be turned off by what you're saying, which happens so often. So with Motherduck, I think, we're certainly doing marketing. I think that the primary way that we've been marketing thus far is in brand. You know, I'm here with this this blue and yellow duck shirt.
I think Jordan did his talk wearing a duck, inflatable duck suit or something.
Yeah, and I'm guessing this podcast isn't going to be published today. So down the street, we're going to have walking from the DuckCon, the open source community gathering, to our Motherduck party. We actually have someone in a duck mascot leading the charge down the alley. But it's fun, right? Have fun with the things that make your brand memorable, that make your company memorable. I was looking at some of the booths at the summit, and I'm just like, these names, no one's gonna have a clue what this name. I mean, I'm bad with names more than others, but like, still, no one's gonna have a clue as to what these companies are or what these companies do. Motherduck, I think, is kind of bold and fun, and for those of you who might think otherwise, the origin of the name really was around. We have DuckDB, and then we have the mother that coordinates all the DuckDB instances. And sure, it has some fun other puns, but that wasn't the intent. We really just think that. Having this fun, bold brand helps everything. There was actually a quote by Ali from Databricks where he basically said, when I first started Databricks, I didn't realize the value in marketing, but then when I realized the value in brand, everything just became a lot easier. When you started investing in brand, and so we want our brand to represent. The company, represent the product. We have one of our values is unorthodoxy. We just want to be fun and, make doing our day-to-day jobs fun. That's probably my career in DevRel. Like, what I've felt most accomplished by is when people have more fun during their day-to-day. They get to go home earlier and be with their family because of the things that we built, because of the platforms that we've built, or because of the marketplaces and the ability for them to sell their products or whatever, is people are able to have fun and go home earlier and do the rest of life.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Brand's key. And and again, echoing what you said about the booths at the expo hall here, it's like there's, brand's key. I don't understand. There's a whole sea of sameness, and I was talking to somebody else about this yesterday. I feel like if you can put just 1 ounce of effort into like differentiating yourself, it's almost too easy in some ways to have a brand, right? Because everyone else trying to do the same stuff, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you have to be seen, you have to be heard. There's been some blog posts that we've put out. Jordan wrote one called "Big Data is Dead." The people that take it completely literally get pissed off by it, but the people that realize that there's a nuance in all of this, and a little bit of shock to get you to read the nuance sometimes helps, and it certainly did in that case with the Hacker News audience. And
that's a brutal crowd too.
But if you read the post, it's really just about hardware has changed, software hasn't. Usage patterns have remained the same, and that's a good way to get your thoughts out there, is by being big and bold. And but if you interpret everything literally, as a lot of engineers will,
they're very literal people, by the way. I think it had a very visceral reaction, but I like the article. I think it was spot on, and it encourages debate, right? That's kind of what we need in this industry right now. Well, cool, man. It's good chatting. I guess we should probably go head over to the expo hall since it's opening now. But Ryan, great to chat as always. For people who want to learn more about you and Motherduck, how can they do that?
Sure. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, or find my Twitter at RyGuyRG, RYGUYRG. And then, of course, Motherduck is just motherduck.com. And
It has a D in it, by the way, not another letter. So
yeah, it does have a D in it. I'm not sure what I think about this whole like autocorrect changes that they're making on the iPhones. We'll see. We'll see how that works. Every one of us has certainly typoed this at times. But
That's funny.
no, I mean you'll know that you're on motherduck.com once you realize all the fun graphics and animations there, because we do want to make your life more fun as a data analyst, data engineer.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Thanks for the chat.
Cool.
I'll see y'all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yep.